Big bitch.
I'm Josh.
I'm Dylan.
I'm Stacy.
And I'm Krystian.
And we're
Humor, Haunts, and Homicide.
Hey everyone, it is Humor, Haunts, and Homicide. We got the squad back here. Episode 6. We have got a whole bunch of fun ready for you. But first, I want to talk about what the hell we're obsessing over. Who would like to take it off for us this week?
I will. I'm completely obsessed with TikToker. Yeah, I watch her videos on TikTok. What's her name?
Christine Norutin?
Yeah.
Something.
I was going to slaughter it. So, but she talks about how she wants to start these projects, but then she just doesn't start them and takes forever to accomplish them. So I have actually gotten into her videos so much that I started taking care of things around the house now that I've been putting off. So I think it's super fun to watch her, and she times herself on how long it takes. She'll be like, I have been putting this off for a whole year, decluttering the garage, and then she'll time herself and she'll be like, oh, it only took an hour and 25 minutes, and I've been putting it off for a whole year. So it's a lot of fun.
So it's like the Yes Man, kind of.
Yeah, that's a cool spin on it. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that aspect of it. So now you're just kind of doing things you never really put yourself in the frame of doing it. And now you're like, I'm going to just do that shit.
Yeah, exactly. So now my mindset is, well, Christy took, an hour to clean out her whole garage, and I've been putting off, detailing the floors or something. And, it's funny. Now it's like busting out toothbrushes and toothpicks, getting in corners of everything that I've been like trying to not deep clean. Now I just find myself deep cleaning more and more. So I'm pretty sure Krystian probably appreciates it.
I appreciate more that I'm not doing it.
Touche, my friends. Touche. That was awesome. Congratulations on your new inspiration.
Thank you.
My obsession this week is going to have to be my scrap man. He is, gosh, I've had him for 15 years. He's 17. I got him when he was 2. But man, we've been inseparable. I love that little dog so much.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's crazy the amount of love that we put into animals, and then the amount of love that they put back into us, and then the relationship and bond that we form with them, and what that ends up evolving into is really cool.
Yes, yep. And he no longer really answers to Scrappy for me. I have to call him my man. That is what he answers to.
It's funny. I can think of like 17 names I give my dogs just because I do. I don't know. Like Loki is Lokes, Loki, Asshole, Chunk, Chunkaroni, Chunkers, Biscuit, Boo Boo. I mean, I can go on, really.
Yep, same. Scrappy has Scrap Master, Scraptastic. Gosh, so many.
I'd say probably my obsession this week is going to relate to more of like what Stacy had. There's a mom and daughter duo that I've been following for probably 6 or 7 months now. It's Mama Jill and Doll. They're from New Jersey, and they make just short little videos on Facebook and TikTok and just posting about their everyday lives. But I absolutely love Mama Jill, and if you haven't seen her videos or watched them make their food recipes and the way they have their relationship with each other, and she kind of reminds me of Linda from Bob's Burgers. That's kind of like the personality she gives me. But I absolutely love her so much. So if you've never watched her, give her a watch.
I will definitely give her a watch.
I love Bob's Burgers, and especially Linda. Bob, I definitely associate with the most, but Linda's hilarious.
I associate the most with Tina. I love Tina.
And Josh has never watched it. Sorry.
Oh my gosh.
Messing out.
I'm the worst. Well, my obsession this week is going to kind of be a story. We're going to talk about Brock Horner. And I just introduced you ladies to the story before the episode recording, so now you were aware of what I'm about to tell you. However, for those of you that have not heard, which is probably not many now that this is very viral, and not for the right reasons, I should add. The backstory is that Charter Captain Brock Horner, who is 40 years old, was taken into custody and charged with burglary with assault or battery, non-forced entry. This happened on April 1st, and Horner was captured on video screaming at a young boater whose name was Gage Tolles. It was in the Peace River in Punta Gorda. He is seen pulling his boat alongside Tolles' boat without permission and unlawfully boating it, according to the joint news released by the Punta Gorda Police Department. The U.S. Coast Guard and the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission had said that the incident was captured on video. And in addition to the criminal investigation, the U.S. Coast Guard and the FWC are conducting separate investigations due to the location of the incident. And they're saying, in quote, "This type of behavior will not be tolerated in our waterways or anywhere else in our city," said the Punta Gorda Police Chief Pam Smith. "We are committed to ensuring the safety of our residents and visitors, both on land and on water." And Horner is being held at the Charlotte County Jail, but I just found out this morning that he was released on bond. So that asshole's back at it. He's deleted all of his social media. He's deleted his businesses. He has ghosted people that have actually poured money into his current reservations as a charter captain because, that was his business. So people have prepaid, put a deposit down for their vacations down here, which is pretty popular. One couple had they were bringing their son down for their birthday, and they put like $1,800 in as a deposit. They were going to put another $1,800 down more. First of all, that's an expensive charter, in my opinion. I mean, I don't know the business, so maybe I'm speaking a little too ignorantly here, but I would not certainly be putting $1,800 down. And then now she's screwed out of this experience and money for her kid. And everyone's hating on this fucking asshole, and they should, because the way he treated this kid who was begging for safety on this boat, for him to, for one, invade his privacy, invade his property, and to make somebody not feel safe when they did nothing wrong is completely fucked up, and this guy deserves all the hate he's getting.
Yeah, and especially, if the kid was yelling or screaming or cussing, who cares? Why are you allowing it to affect you that much? It's just words. I don't understand that at all.
Anybody that says, "I'm the best goddamn charter captain in the world," who the fuck's narcissist small dick's ass says that? Get in your truck and start going away. You know what I mean?
You know who says that? Not the smartest, best captain.
Yeah, that's true. Touche to that again.
Yeah, and this is not his first time running in with the law. He has a record, for sure.
I saw the video right before we started recording, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe how irate he got.
And the audacity of some people.
Well, and the thing is, too, is just be lucky it wasn't someone else that had a gun. Because Florida is an open carry state, so if you jumped on someone else's property, they have the right to shoot you. So you're lucky he didn't have a gun, because it could have been a completely different situation.
In another article that I read about the situation, the kid had said that he was so scared that he thought about jumping into the water and then realized this guy's going to have control of my boat and he could kill me and run me over. So that wasn't the right move either. So I just figured if I'm going to get hurt, or maybe he'll throw me off the boat himself or whatever. But ultimately, I think the kid did the right thing. He handled himself well. He did it professionally. He tried to de-escalate. The guy clearly was not reasonable. I don't know if he was on something. I'm sure that will be talked about due to the fact that he was arrested, and I'm sure they had to do some sort of test. Maybe not. I don't really know. But to be continued if I find anything else out.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Thanks. All right, ladies, I am super happy to hear about your stories today. Spook me, scare me, do it all. What you got?
We are going to a faraway place in Beijing. Welcome to the whispers of the Forbidden City, where the shadows of history conceal secrets too dark to forget. Beneath the ancient roof of Beijing's most legendary monument lie whispers of restless spirits, forbidden rituals, and long-buried mysteries. Stories of ghostly apparitions, eerie sounds in the dead of night, and the silent echoes of forgotten emperors haunt its halls. As we step behind the imperial walls, prepare to unravel the chilling tales that have been hidden for centuries, tales that refuse to stay buried. Welcome to a journey through the supernatural heart of the Forbidden City, if you dare to listen.
Now, I've heard about this city, but I don't know really anything about it. All I know is it's haunted, and it's creepy, and it's got a whole lot of history.
And a whole lot of murders.
Oh, okay, yes.
The Forbidden City was the residence of 24 emperors, and the center of political power in China for over 500 years, from 1420 to 1924. The palace is now managed by the Palace Museum. It is one of the most popular tourist attractions in the world. The Forbidden City is arguably the most famous palace in all Chinese history and is the largest preserved royal palace complex still standing in the world. Construction lasted 14 years and required more than 1 million workers. Materials used were wood from the jungles of southwestern China, large blocks of marble from quarries near Beijing, and the floors of major halls were paved with golden bricks. Yellow roofs, primarily featuring yellow glazed tiles that symbolized the emperor's power. The complex claims to consist of 9,999 rooms in total, although experts have shown in recent years that the number only amounts to 8,886, covering 178 acres. It is listed by the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization as the largest collection of preserved ancient wooden structures in the world. Since 2012, the Forbidden City has seen an average of 14 million visitors annually, which is just crazy, and received more than 19 million visitors in 2019. In 2018, the Forbidden City's market value was estimated at $70 million, making it both the world's most valuable palace and the most valuable piece of real estate anywhere in the world. The first emperor to live in the Forbidden City was Emperor Yongle. He led a scandalous life full of pleasure and lust. When Beijing was visited by several high foreign celebrities, he had to get rid of his enormous harem. So one horrific night in 1421, the emperor ordered his soldiers to kill nearly 3,000 people connected to his harem. By exterminating all signs of his sex scandal, the emperor hoped to keep his secret safe. That night, the polished floors were flooded with blood. Girls as young as 12 and 13 were brutally ripped apart. The eunuchs and servants who watched over his so-called concubines were also slaughtered. Some were decapitated, others were hacked to pieces. A few years after that horrendous incident, a fire destroyed the Forbidden City, burning over 250 buildings to the ground and killing numerous people. Despite the palace being covered with lucky charms, they didn't prevent the destruction. Emperor Yongle sank into depression, thinking that it was a punishment for his actions, and he died in 1424. A few women who were the emperor's favorites were spared. Favorite concubines became women of wealth who were given special benefits. One of these women was Lady Koi. She was the daughter of a Korean government official and was brought to the Forbidden City at the age of 14. She was brought to the Forbidden City to learn the art of lovemaking. She kept a diary, which she described the bloody events, and her diary was later discovered. Lady Koi outlived... Oh, go ahead, Josh.
The art of love making?
At 14.
At 14.
Yeah, that's a child. That's disgusting.
I'm just floored, but I'm also not shocked because of disgusting fucks like that.
Lady Koi outlived the emperor, but this also meant the end of her. On the day the emperor was buried, she and 15 other favorite women were executed. That was the dying wish of the emperor. They were all taken to a hall in the Forbidden City and hung from a noose made of white silk. She was just 30 years old. The Forbidden City is rumored to be haunted due to its long history of betrayals, execution, and murders. The palace closes well before nightfall because that's when the ghosts appear. But the daytime doesn't stop the ghosts. Orbs and mist in the background of photos from visitors. A feeling of being watched or followed. A ghostly touch on some visitors' arms. Ghost dogs running in the halls, charging and pouncing at some people, disappearing right before impact. Hushed voices from the concubine quarters and disembodied footsteps. Along the side with clashing swords and screaming. Headless or gruesomely wounded apparitions dressed in gear spanning various centuries. Phantom animal sounds scurrying around and flute music coming from the palace walls. A woman in white sobbing, wandering the grounds. Some who have seen her say she vanished before their eyes, while others say she shrieked and chased them. A woman in black with no face. Doors opening and closing on their own. Phantom bodies on polished floors, and even pools of blood have been mentioned. The guards confess to witnessing odd animals running quickly around the grounds. Some visitors have reported feeling a sense of sadness and loss when they visited the Forbidden City. One of the clearest stories I found is supposedly in 1995, a guard at the Forbidden City was watching TV in the guards' room when two of his colleagues burst into the room looking scared. The two claimed they have seen a woman dressed in all black walking away from them. The guards chased her, yelling at her to stop. They finally cornered her at a locked door and ordered her to turn around. When she did, she had no face. The men dropped their flashlights and ran back to the guards' room. The three guards took guns and returned to the location, only to find the flashlights on the floor, still on, and the woman was nowhere to be found. Now I want to tell you about a more recent story that happened in 1989 at the entrance of the Forbidden City, called Tiananmen Square, known within China as the June 4th incident. Protests were led by students protesting about corruption and inflation, lasting from April 15th to June 4th, 1989. After weeks of failed attempts between the protesters and the Chinese government to find a peaceful resolution, martial law was imposed on May 20th, but the protests continued. On the night of June 4th, the Chinese Liberation Army rolled into Tiananmen Square with tanks and armed soldiers and began an assault on the protesters, crushing them with the tanks and shooting them down with machine guns. The complete death toll is unknown, but the Chinese government claims only 241 people, including soldiers, were killed. However, the Red Cross estimates a number closer to 2,600. And so, as the echoes of history linger in the Forbidden City's silent halls, we're reminded that its walls have witnessed both the glory and the shadows of a nation's journey. From the imperial court's whispers to the cries for change in Tiananmen Square, these places stand as silent witnesses and to the resilience and complexity of human stories. History is alive in the stones beneath our feet and the memories we carry forward. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring the mysteries that shape our world.
All right. I will be the first to say I hate that fucker. Wow, how many horrendous things have to happen before there's serious change made? The amount of horrific things that these women went through are still leaving this impression on me that is just making me feel gross inside.
Yes.
And for the government to say it was 200 some odd people, and then in other reports it was 2,000, that's a big discrepancy for how many people actually died.
Yeah, they're just a bunch of liars over there.
Well, that just goes to show you, too, how much the government is actually covering up, too. It's not just our government.
Yep.
You're not wrong about that, but as a side note, not related, but semi-related, because it's still the same story. What is it with Ghost in black and white? You don't ever hear about Ghost in fucking pink and floral. You don't hear about Ghost in rainbows or different, like, sunshiny beach dresses or anything like that. You hear about black, white, and death. Like, what the fuck's with that? You just die and you're, like, given an awful fucking wardrobe? Like, what is this?
Black would definitely be my color of choice, though. Between that and white, if there's only two colors to choose from.
I mean, look, black is thinning, so if I'm gonna be a dead ghost, like, let me be a thinning dead ghost, you know?
There you go.
I would wear white.
I would have to say I don't want to say my most favorite thing, but the most thing that I found intriguing, I guess, is those ghost dogs pouncing around and jumping at people. I would shit my pants, but also try to love them too.
Stay the fuck away from me, you hellhound. Yeah, no, but an amazing all-around story. Obviously not amazing about the things that have happened there, but we've had to report on things that did, and I'm glad you picked this one.
Thank you. I enjoyed doing it.
You're welcome.
Well, my love, what do you have for us? That was mine on paranormal. I want to know your true crime.
Mine is a super horrible story, actually.
Oh.
It took place in Michigan, like all my stories have been, so I decided to stick with the theme and continue it.
Love it.
Ann Arbor, Michigan is a vibrant city known for its rich cultural scene, educational institutions, and its stunning surroundings. It's home to the University of Michigan, which gives the area a dynamic energy fueled by students, academics, and research. When compared to Ypsilanti, Ann Arbor is often seen as a more upscale and bustling college town. Ypsilanti has a smaller town charm with a more diverse and laid-back vibe. While you can find boutiques, cafes, and high-end restaurants in Ann Arbor, Ypsilanti provides more historic districts that project a quirky, artsy energy with vintage shops, craft breweries, and a deep sense of community. These two cities, so distinct yet so connected, share not only a regional bond, but also a dark chapter in their history. In the late 1960s, amidst the beauty, creativity, and these vibrant communities, a series of horrifying events would unfold. The Michigan murders were a series of highly exposed killings of young women committed between 1967 and 1969. Although he had many names, Michigan murderer, co-ed killer, and the Ypsilanti Ripper, his name was John Norman Collins, later changed to John Norman Chapman. His victims were women between the ages of 13 and 21. All were abducted, raped, beaten, and eventually murdered by strangulation or stabbing. Their lifeless bodies were then mutilated and then discarded within a 15-mile radius of Washtenaw County.
Washtenaw?
Washtenaw.
Victim number 1, Mary Flezer, murdered July 9th, 1967. Mary was a 19-year-old accounting student at Eastern Michigan University. Mary was last seen walking to her Ypsilanti apartment. Her then neighbor, Greg, witnessed a man driving a blue-gray Chevrolet came to the screeching halt right in front of Mary, cutting her off. Greg heard a man catcalling out to Mary, asking her to get into the vehicle. Mary insisted she was not going to get into his car and proceeded to walk down the road, out of Greg's sight. Mary was never heard from again. Around a month later, on August 7th, 1967, in a field, Mary's body was found. She was stabbed 30 times in the chest and abdomen. Her feet were severed at the ankles, and her thumb and sections of her fingers of one hand were missing. One forearm was severed from her body. Mary's severed appendages were never found. Police suspected sexual assault, but because her body was so badly decomposed, this had erased any conclusive evidence. Upon further investigation of the crime scene, it was determined that Mary was murdered elsewhere and her body dumped at the crime scene. It was also noted in police reports that Mary's body had been moved 3 different times within the month. At first, her body was laid under elder trees on bottles and cans out of view. The second time, Mary's body was dragged 5 feet from the first area into a field. The third time, shortly before her body was discovered, the murderer, John Collins, then moved her body another 3 feet from where he left her the second time. Police stated that each time Mary's body was moved, she was mutilated again and again and again. 2 days after Mary's body was found and identified, a young man claiming to be a family member came up to the funeral home where he held Mary's decomposed body prior to her scheduled burial and proceeded to ask the receptionist if he could have permission to take a photograph of the body as it lay in the coffin as a keepsake for her parents. After the request was denied, the young man left.
What the fuck are you telling me right now?
I want this to sink in for you guys because this was... I don't even recall researching something so deeply, even for class lately, to be honest.
I just want to say, for a keepsake, I'm sorry, her parents tragically lost their daughter. They don't want that as a keepsake.
And why is he moving her body 3 times? What is the point of that?
Sick.
That part. This is his first victim, you guys.
Okay, I'm buckling up.
The receptionist could not provide a clear description of the young man, however, told police that he drove a blue-gray Chevrolet. Victim number 2, Joanne Schell, murdered July 5th, 1968. So this is about a year later because his first killing was July 9th. So exactly a year and 4 days later, another murder. Joan was a 20-year-old EMU student, Eastern Michigan again. She was last seen by her roommate hitchhiking on June 30th, 1968, in front of EMU's student union after missing her bus to go to her boyfriend's house. Joan's roommate saw her get into a car with 3 young men begging her not to go with them. Joan stated that she would be fine and would call her once she got to his house safely. Her roommate never heard from her again. Her partially decomposed, mutilated body was discovered July 5th by construction workers. She has been raped, then stabbed 25 times with a 4-inch knife, puncturing her lungs, liver, and arteries, with a wound inflicted behind her left ear, fracturing her skull. Joan's throat had been slashed, and her miniskirt was then tied around her neck, which eventually led to her death by strangulation. Victim 3. Jane Mixer, 23-year-old University of Michigan law student, murdered March 21st, 1969. A year later. Jane disappeared after putting on a college bulletin board that she needed to get a ride upstate to her parents' house out in Muskegon. Her fully clothed body was found covered with her own raincoat in a Denton cemetery. Autopsy revealed that Mixer had been shot twice in the head, then strangled. Shot twice in the head and then strangled.
That doesn't make any sense.
Right. Not only was she shot twice in the head and strangled, it was with a nylon stocking that wasn't even hers. Mixer had not been sexually assaulted. However, her pantyhose had been pulled down to her thighs, exposing her sanitary napkin, which suggested motive behind the murder. So just a little bit further information with that, about the sanitary napkin. It was later discovered as well that John Collins was dating somebody back in his college days. His girlfriend at the time, he had came over to her house, and then at the time they were making out or whatever in her apartment, and she says, "I'm on my period." He immediately got so pissed and was screaming at her about how it was disgusting and eventually left her apartment.
Oh my gosh.
So 4 days after the discovery of Jane, a surveyor discovered the nude, mutilated body of a teenage girl just a few hundred yards from where Joan was found. Victim 4, Marilyn Skelton, 16 years old.
Oh my gosh.
Marilyn died due to numerous fractures covering 1/3 of her skull and one side of her face, all that had been inflicted with heavy blunt instrument. John placed her own shirt into her trachea to muffle her screams as he hit her repeatedly. John also used restraints while he beat her upper and lower torso with a leather belt. John then took a nearby tree branch and shoved the branch 8 inches inside of Marilyn's vagina.
Oh, man, I didn't know we were going to need a fucking disclaimer warning.
Poor girls.
So apparently, according to the sheriff that was working this case in 1969, he said that was John's MO, basically, that is what he would do to each one of his victims. Victim number 5, Dawn Basom, 13-year-old 8th grader. Found in a white blouse and bra that was pushed around her neck and had been stabbed in the chest and genitals. She had received multiple slash wounds across her chest, buttocks, and stomach. She was then strangled to death with a 2-foot length electrical cord around her neck. Dawn was last seen taking a shortcut from school to her home on a railroad track. There was an orange sweater that belonged to Dawn that was found in a deserted farmhouse just 100 yards from where Dawn's body was found. Dawn was tortured in the basement of the farmhouse and later escaped, only to die along the road due to her inflictions. 13 years old.
And she was so close. It's like watching a horror movie and she's getting out of the place and you're like rooting for her and then she fucking dies anyway. Ugh.
Yep. Victim number 6, Alice Calum, 22-year-old grad student from University of Michigan, on her way to a birthday party. Witnesses saw her get on the back of a motorcycle, leaving the Depot House Club. Less than 2 months after Dawn's body was found, 3 teenage boys found a partially nude body of a young woman in a field close to an abandoned farmhouse. Yes, it was the same farmhouse. It was the body of Alice. She had received multiple slashes and stab wounds to the forehead before her neck had been cut from ear to ear through to her spine. Her right thumb had a gunshot wound, suggesting that Alice raised her hand before being shot. She was also raped A pathologist was unable to determine if she was raped before or after she was murdered. Victim number 7. Roxy Phillips, 17 years old, high school senior, 2,000 miles away in California. Just a few weeks after Alice's body was discovered, Roxy Phillips was brutally murdered. Roxy was last seen mailing out a letter. She would never make it back home. When Roxy was on her way home, a shiny Cutlass car pulled to the curb and cut her off. The car stood out by bystanders because it had Michigan license plates on it. The car also stood out because once he got Roxy into the vehicle, the car screeched his tires and almost hit another car. Roxy was found in a canyon outside of Salinas. She had been beaten and strangled with a belt that went to her outfit that she was wearing that day. So the connection was made between this and John because John actually ended up going on a trip with one of his friends. They rented a camper and took it to California. And while they were down there for just over a weekend, he already had murdered Roxy Phillips. Victim number 8. This was the last victim that ultimately landed his arrest. Karen, 18-year-old EMU freshman student, last seen alive on July 23rd, 1969. Karen walked into a wig shop and made a comment to the shop owner that did not sit well. Upon entry, Karen stated, "Well, I've just done 2 things that I haven't done in my life. I am buying a wig, and I accepted a ride on a motorcycle with a stranger." Feeling uneasy, the shop owner and her assistant went outside to look at the man on the motorcycle. When he noticed them looking at him, he immediately looked away. 3 days later, Karen's nude body was discovered face down in a wooded gully alongside the Huron River Parkway. She had been extensively beaten on her face and body with some lacerations inflicted, being so severe that sections of her skin that had been removed was exposing tissue. Her neck, shoulders, nipples, and breasts were burned with chemicals that she was also forced to ingest. Karen had been raped prior to the murder, and her panties were torn and forced inside of her. The panties had semen and human hair clippings wrapped up in them prior to insertion. Karen ultimately died of strangulation.
This fucker is sick.
Yeah, he really, really is.
There is murderer, and then there is disgusting, twisted, psychopathic fuckery. And that is what this is.
Absolutely.
In 1970, John Collins was tried for the murder of Karen. He was found guilty by a jury and was ordered to life without parole. In 1980, Collins legally changed his surname to that of his biological father, Chapman. So, what ultimately led to his arrest was because he was house sitting for his uncle, who was a sheriff. He murdered Karen in his basement and then moved her body.
What an idiot.
So then when the sheriff got home, he noticed that there was stuff going on in the basement. Stuff had been moved. The sheriff's wife had given their boys a haircut and swept the hair clippings in a neat pile. And all of that hair was everywhere. And they found Karen's blood in the basement. Those hair clippings are the exact hair clippings that he put inside of Karen's underwear and then shoved them inside of her. That's what ultimately landed his arrest.
Wow.
I don't know, man. This has got me fucked up.
Yeah, I actually included because this was news. This was huge back in early 1969. There was a serial killer in Michigan, and they said it was even before the serial killer term came about. It was before Jeffrey Dahmer. It was before Ted Bundy, and it's just insane. It's so crazy.
Yeah, this sets a whole new precedent because I don't think you can be as sick as this.
Yeah, it takes a huge psycho. I mean, he would keep memorabilia because that's every psycho's MO, I guess. He kept Mary's earrings, and then he would go back to the crime scene. It was one of the girls whose body was found in the gully. But because the cop was too preoccupied with swatting mosquitoes away, They missed their chance. He was there. He was in the gully.
Oh my gosh.
It's crazy. I added the video clips of the news reports and everything so that if anybody does want to, I don't know, dig into this, it was
gruesome.
it was just, I don't know, it was so much, you guys. Just so much.
Oh, man. This was definitely an important story to hear. So I want to first start by thanking you for bringing this to light, because I've never heard of this fuck ever. I had no idea that this was a serial killer.
Right. We've all heard of Jeffrey Dahmer and what is it? John Gacy. Never this guy. Never this guy.
Yeah, and here I am I'm completely lost too, and we're all from Michigan, so this is crazy that we've never heard of this. It's insane. The whole story is just insane. I can't even tell you how much I was able to research and brought up, and the interviews. The journalist that covered this on the news actually meets up with some women that were able to get away.
Wow. What were there? Did you watch any of the videos? Just wondering.
I watched a few of the interviews, yes.
What were their reactions? What were their mindsets like? How did they escape?
One girl actually was dating him and said that she would go on motorcycle rides by abandoned farmhouses through the country with him. And just nothing ever happened to her. Thank God. But I'm just like, I don't know. It was just mind blowing. And then another lady said that he had actually approached her on his motorcycle. It was either the blue-gray Chevy car that he drove, or it was a Triumph motorcycle that he drove. And the motorcycle he got more women on, so he started using that more and more around EMU and Michigan, University of Michigan, and, college campuses, and offered just random rides to girls. And she took it and was driving all around the farmhouses where he had already murdered. And then another lady was like, he told me to get in the back of his car, and was like, you're not going to get in the back of my car, you stupid bitch. Like, yeah, like super aggressive.
And see, that was back in the day when hitchhiking was cool. You can trust people, even though you really fucking shouldn't. You leave your door unlocked, your windows wide open, you go to bed, and your neighbors are fine. You trust them. Well, and this is when serial killers were really at their prime, because they knew how to feed off that trust. They knew how to get into the depths of what you needed. Oh, you need a ride? I got you. You don't know what you're getting into. Really fucked up. And that time was really prominent for like up and coming serial killers, as sad, as sick as it is. With technology, you don't get away with that shit as much as you used to.
Yeah, thank goodness. Jeez.
Wow. Fucked up. Great story. Tons of content.
Definitely. And I actually added it. Well, it looked like a MySpace page, if you will, memory for Mary. I actually added that as well, so that it's more along the side of like what Mary would have said about her own life. And it's pictures of her family that she never got to meet. And I mean, I researched the hell out of this story because it was so mind blowing, and I just couldn't talk about it enough. There's so much more, you guys, but we're only on a limited amount of time, definitely, but it's worth looking into for sure.
Hey, well, you got me, and I will be taking your recommendation and doing just that right after we are done recording.
Nice.
Awesome. Well, thank you again.
So my sources for The Forbidden City are thecollector.com, thestandard.co, and thelittlehouseofhorrors.com, and the rest will be in show notes.
My sources include wikipedia.org, fox2detroit.com, and the rest will be in the show notes. But I did want to also include Mary's welcome page. That's www.maryfleszar.com. I highly suggest people take a look at that. It's super sad.
All right, we absolutely will. I know I will. I know the audience will. And I'm going to make my husband do it, so I know he will. And the only thing I guess I'll have to say is, Krystian, just like your story in the Forbidden City, there's one thing about mysteries, and they don't sleep.
And neither do we.
Bye, bitches.
humor, haunts, and homicide.